All right, hello everybody. My name is Mark Fidelman, hosting the Fanatics Media second blab that we've ever done. For those of you that don't know who we are, you can check us out. I'm going to put a link into the profile there so you can see it. So today we're going to talk about advocacy marketing. And last week we talked about influencer marketing. And some of you, as I've come to learn, have a little bit of trouble defining which is which, but we're going to do that today as we start the program. Now, I put another link, a YouTube link into last week's show if you want to see influencer marketing. So I'm going to kick things off and give you my explanation of advocacy or advocate marketing, and I'm going to let the panelists tell me where I'm wrong. So for me, advocate marketing is where you work with a group of your engaged customers, maybe it's partners or fans, and that's, for me, it's to promote either another product, a service, or some kind of a cause that you have. You're working closely with these engaged individuals that really like what you're about, what your brand's about, what your product's about, if they love your product, and so on and so forth. So we highly recommend, if you've got an engaged workforce or you've got an engaged customer base or you have partners, to do advocate marketing. And for full disclosure, we work with Mark's company, Mark from Influitive, who's going to introduce himself in just a minute. And we're seeing a lot of great success for it. So let's get started real quickly, and I'm going to start with Mark. Maybe a brief intro, Mark, and then 140 character responses as to what you believe advocate marketing is.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. I'm Mark Organ, founder and CEO of Influitive. All right, let's get the echo.
There's a little bit of an echo.
Yeah, hang on, let me try the headset. So founder and CEO of Influitive. Here at Influitive, we help companies mobilize their army of advocates. I have some experience in the marketing software space. I've been in marketing software for about 16 years as founder and CEO of Eloqua. That's really where I got the idea for Influitive and saw the power of these special people, these fans, these advocates, evangelists that helped so many more of these sales processes go quickly and efficiently. And so I really wanted to work on that problem next and how to sustainably and systematically help people mobilize those advocates. So my 140 character version is, I think that advocacy is really any non-financial investment in a company or product. So we have a very expansive vision of what advocacy is all about. For a lot of people, if you think about the Net Promoter Score, it's just about referrals. The referrals are really valuable for sure, but we think that people who take the time to give you feedback on your marketing campaigns or on your product, that counts too. That's non-financial investment. I mean, any of that investment in your company or brand, we think that counts, and we think that great companies are built on that. They're built on investment that people are willing to make without payment, into a company. So that's how we define advocacy. So advocate marketing is the science and the art of being able to mobilize these people by giving them a great experience, right? By providing the right kind of experience for advocates to make them feel valued, appreciated, respected. Then we get more of what we want, the referrals, the references, the case studies, the social buzz, the online reviews, all that investment. We get more of it when we give advocates experience that they want, the value that they want.
Okay, and I just want to encourage our guests to limit to 140 characters, but that was more. All right.
Not to one up Mark there, but I think I've got it, probably less than 20 characters. I'll jump to that in a sec. A quick introduction for me. So I'm very pleased and happy to be the Icompass Chief Revenue Officer at the moment. We provide agenda and records management solution to small and mid-sized governments, and we have the best customers. We're super lucky in terms of how our customers partner with us. And with the platform that Mark has invented effectively and put out into the world, The way we would define, I think, advocacy marketing, and this is actually part of our core values, is really, to put it in a short sentence, is helping friends sell for you.
Okay. Bo?
Sure. I'm Bo Bandy. I'm the marketing director at Readytalk, and we are a provider of online meeting and presentation technology, so web conferences, small collaboration meetings, that sort of thing. I think while Paul and Mark have given great definitions, the one thing I would probably add is that for us, it's all about customer first and making sure it's a mutually beneficial relationship. And it's telling the story of why our customers love us and making sure they continue to do that, right? So they may be a champion today. Next week, we want them to be a super champion, if that is such a thing.
Okay, and Mark, are you still able to hear what we're talking about? Nope, apparently not. Okay, well, Mark will have to work on his audio there. So let's just jump right in. What business scenarios call for advocate marketing? And let's start with Paul on that one.
Yeah, sure. So to be a bit bold, any business scenario where you would like to reduce your customer acquisition cost. Advocate marketing is just outstanding for cutting out a lot of the expense and also the length of the sales cycle that the traditional, even new age marketing automation approaches take. If you can get somebody who is either already using or already familiar with your product to just say that you're good guys or guys and gals, and B, that your product works and works well. It obviously it accelerates the prospect through the buyer's journey in a way that I'm hard pressed to suggest any other options.
Okay, Bo?
Yeah, I mean, I'd add to that. We definitely are using our advocate program throughout our lead generation cycle, but it's also a key point of kind of post-purchase too, right? So it's continuing that and making sure we're connecting like-minded customers with each other to further their not only use of the product, but their knowledge in the space, right? And turning them from just being a user into an advocate to kind of go full circle. I think Paul did a really nice summary of kind of how they are touch points throughout the buying cycle. The other thing I would add is that we use our advocates for things like content marketing, right? To create not only the ideas for the content, but often they write and contribute to the content. They are an extension of our sales team and our marketing team by going out and telling our story on social. And really a lot of times, it's more than just being a reference or, a case study. It's a lot of other touch points throughout that buying process.
Okay. So, I mean, it sounds like you guys have two very active advocate marketing communities. Would you guys say that's an accurate depiction? Okay, but it's
still relatively new, but for sure, it's the engagement's pretty incredible. Okay,
but how did you guys sell this program internally? What did you have to do? Were people rolling their eyes? I mean, what exactly did you guys do?
So I think I'm probably pretty lucky in that it was a really, really easy sell at Readytalk. We are a customer-centric company from day one, right? We've kind of been built around the mantra that if we put customers first, everything else will follow. And this is just an extension of that. Putting a platform like Influitive in place was easy because all it was doing is formalizing things we were already doing, making it easier to connect with our customers and to leverage our customers in other ways. So for me, I'm really fortunate in that it was pretty easy. I mean, that said, we have metrics in place, we have goals, we continue to show the ROI on the program, but it's by far one of the easiest technology platform sells that we have in our team.
Okay. And Paul, do you agree?
A similar situation, although we've been going through a lot of change at Icompass, and we've had some pretty big platform and stack changes. And while Icompass is also an incredibly customer first and 360-degree customer view approach, it took a little bit of convincing, given that this was a new area, this was a new space, and I had visited it a couple of times. Really expounded the opportunity to work with Mark, who invented one industry and is off in inventing another one. And the fact that we were able to get in early in the game here, really helped things. So I think the big clincher was coming back to thought leadership. We're very interested in establishing Icompass as a thought leader, but that's done not by telling people what they should do or they should think. It's by providing the customer, and again, we have awesome customers, a platform to be the thought leaders. And that's where an absolute ton of our content comes from. Our blog content, our challenges in the Influitive Hub, and so the ability to get a good move on thought leadership, I think, was a big mover in the decision process.
Okay, and when you guys, and Mark, are you with us? Do you have audio? Okay, we can't hear you. We can't hear you, but you can hear us. All right, watch that video I sent you on the right-hand side, and you'll be able to. It'll walk you through it. Okay. Okay. So let's go, Bo. These are customer-centric questions in a way, Mark. Bo, what does it cost to run the advocacy or the advocate community that you've got built at your organization, and what's the headcount required to kind of run it?
So, gosh, I should probably know the total cost we have invested, but kind of line items for us are the platform itself, right? We invest a fair amount into what I would call like customer swag. Right. So through the platform, there's some rewards that customers can redeem for, right? They can redeem their points for tangible and intangible goods. So sometimes that's consulting services, but sometimes it's a shiny new iPad, right? So there's some cost associated with that. In terms of headcount, I have part of my time, a very small part of my time, and half of another person today. We are opening up a position either in Q4 or Q1 for a customer marketer that will own this and some other programs. But we've been able to run a really robust, solid program with, I would say, 3/4 of a person.
Wow. And same thing for you, Paul, or is it a little different?
Pretty similar. So I have one individual who's mostly dedicated. I would say about 3/4 has a number of activities that aren't necessarily related to specifically what we call our Clerk On program. That's the name of our Advocate Hub. And then of course there is the cost of the platform. Challenge creation is shared out across the organization. And sometimes we wish it was more shared, especially on busy days for Lyle Huntley, who's our director of customer community, who's running our hub. For our side, rewards are not a huge element just yet. We have people cashing them in, but as a percentage of other costs, they're not that much of a risk for us. We have put together kind of our rewards, our share economy there, if you will, and so there are some frequent flyer mile sort of calculations that go on to make sure that we don't overextend, just in case everybody cashes them in at the same time. But really, it isn't anything to worry about. Our most successful reward is actually usually around charity donations. We work with our customers in the municipal government space, and more often than not, they're either donating directly to charity or finding ways to use other of our rewards, like Starbucks gift cards, to donate to charity as well.
Okay, all right, and kind of in a short couple of minute answer to this question, what is it specifically that this community is doing for you guys in terms of revenue or leads or awareness? What do you have that's specific to the advocacy community that you could vouch for?
I want to just answer with yes. It's all of those things. I think in the first 6 months, we had 112% more customer referrals than we'd had the entire year previously, right?
And we'll get into how we do that in just a minute, but that's wonderful.
Yeah, so customer referrals, huge. The extension on social, right? The number of impressions that we can drive through our advocates is, if I had to give you a number, it's probably 30 or 40x what we can do ourselves, right? Just because when you think about the reach of our customers versus just our reach, right?
And how many people are in your community, Bo?
We have about 300 active advocates each month. We're close to about 1,000 that come in and out and participate, but each month it's about 300 people coming in and doing something, right? Working with us in some capacity. Right.
Okay. How about you, Paul?
Yeah, I would go with the kind of the flat across the board. Yes, we're getting all of that. For us at the moment, though, in terms of the evolution of our hub, it is focused on thought leadership and awareness. And so we're in around the same numbers in terms of how many folks we have in our hub, but we have a relatively small customer base. We've only got about 400 customers, and we've got about 70% of our customers, a representative of 70% of our customers in ClerkOn itself. We've gone kind of a unique step and a little bit of an experiment, and so far it's working out in our favor, to also open up our hub to prospects. And so potential customers, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we've done that by really filling out the one of the new features, the community aspect, and making that searchable on the internet. That kind of brings people in. We also have a very, very specific, though, user profile that our group, it's called the ClerkOn Hub, and it's based on a Keep Calm ClerkOn marketing slogan that we completely stole, from the Second World War. But it's very successful, and so we know that the individuals in our community are at least have a commonality of being clerks, and with that commonality, we actually have situations where potential customers or prospects, or even individuals that are using competitors' software, we find them providing us referrals for our software. They might not be in a situation where they can refer us just because of the size of their organization or how far they are down the path of implementing, their exact solution. But they're providing us, in several cases, not only referrals, but also thought leadership pieces. Also, participating in putting together blog posts and putting together challenges.
Excellent. Hey, Mark, are you back with audio?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, we finally have Mark back, and quite timely because we're switching topics here.
Excellent.
I want to remind everybody you could tweet about this on the left-hand side where it says "Tell a Little Bird," and also if you have any specific questions, and I'll use them in the show by hitting /Q and then the question on the right-hand side, and that'll line up a list of questions that we can ask during the show. So, kind of the next subject for all of you, and I'm going to start with Mark since he's been self-silenced. He did it himself. Mark, what are the best strategies, and this show is about how-to content, right? What are the best strategies for recruiting advocates for a brand or a product or a cause, if it's a charitable organization?
So one thing we advocate is using multiple channels. Right? So email is one channel. We have some of our customers that are using direct mail as well to give that sort of special touch.
But Mark, how do you find them?
Oh, question. So there are a number of ways of finding them. There are some people who are already sharing some stuff around social media, and so those people are relatively easy to find if you've got a some social media tracking tool. We also advocate. Just asking your frontline sales and service people, And in some cases, people even gamify that. I don't know, Bo or Paul, if you've done that. But some people have actually provided some rewards and competitions for sales and service people. Say, hey, how many of these advocates can you uncover and let us know about them? And what we've seen is that for most companies, they actually know, someone in the company knows who these advocates are. It may not be the customer marketer, it may not be the head of marketing, but those folks in the sales and service office do know who they are. So just asking them, give us your top 5 list of best advocates that we can invite into the program. So that's another way to do it. I mean, in many
What about,
cases,
Mark? What about if you have no advocates, like you're just starting? You just launched I guess Kickstarter, you'd have advocates, but let's just say you're just launching it as a startup. How do you find advocates or create advocates for your brand or product?
Well, hopefully if you're a startup, you're really focused on providing an amazing user experience, right? Amazing customer experience. So one of the things that we do have some startups that use the product, and for them, they're really inviting every new user and customer into the program. And the language is a little bit different, right? The language is, instead of saying, hey, you're a super important customer to us and we really want to add more value there, it's hey, this is part of the whole customer experience at our company. We're interested in your feedback on how we can do better in our product and service. And if you love it, we'd appreciate it if you told more people about it. And if you do, there are a lot of things that we can do for you. You can introduce you to more folks. We can provide you with special value, for your company. So that we call that new customer induction or new customer onboarding. It's a great program. Essentially, you're instilling this habit in your customers, this expectation that if you're happy, then one of the things that our customers just do is they advocate. It's just part of the culture of our company. And for some of our customers, that happens even before the sale. The sales rep is telling the prospect before they sign, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you huge amounts of value and amazing experience. And you're going to pay us a little bit of money. A small fraction of all the value would be great for you. You're going to pay us. But what was more important for us, if you are happy, is that you help our company grow. Not by buying more, but by helping recruit more great customers to join our mission, our mission and vision. And so it creates sort of this culture of advocacy, which I really think is the future. I think that's where a lot of companies are going, whether they're startup or they're big.
So one of the tips and tricks that I give our customers, and I'll let Bo and Paul answer as well, is I'll immediately do, for companies that don't know who their advocates are or what have you, I'll immediately do a survey either to their customer base if they have one. If they don't, to the prospective customer base, and I'll ask them the net promoter question. So I will say, if you've experienced our product or if you haven't experienced our product, what is the likelihood that this is a product that you'd recommend to somebody else? And if they answer 8 or higher, I'm very interested in forming a relationship with that individual. And that relationship for me is inviting them into an advocate community like Influitive. So now with that, Bo, I'm going to turn it over to you and ask how you recruited all your advocates into your community specifically.
Yep. So thanks, because that's how we've done it. We have a customer survey. So that's how we built our huge base. Is anyone, we actually have said a 7 or higher, because we feel like those 7s, once they're a part of our community, we can start to nurture them and kind of continue them on that advocacy scale. So on our Net Promoter Score, anyone that gives us a 7 or higher, we bring in. We've also invited folks, to Mark's point earlier, our account managers and our sales team, they know, right? The sales guys have a Rolodex of folks that they continue to call on as they move to different companies, or that they've been tapping into for referrals for their base of business. Well, we make sure that they invite them into the hub, right, and make it part of the community. Our social media expert, who's on social all day long and having these conversations, is inviting people in to our hub. So we really focus on our known champions to date. We actually think, because the way our platform is structured, we have close to 70,000 end users. And we've tapped into, I mentioned we have about 1,000 in our hub. So we've tapped into a very, 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 very small percentage. We actually want to take that further now and kind of open up the gates and see what happens when we invite a bunch of other consumers that aren't our known advocates, right? Because the response on a customer survey like it's small, right? A lot of people don't like surveys. Doesn't mean they're not an advocate for Readytalk. So we're actually in the coming quarter going to see what happens when we start inviting in folks that aren't known advocates, right? Maybe just based on product usage. See.
Okay, Paul, how did you recruit the advocates into your community? And I have a question for all of you that you could start with. Is what's the right number of advocates for a community?
Okay, so in terms of how we got our advocates in our community, effectively it was 3 different ways. We're pretty lucky. We do an NPS, and the first one's very similar to both of your comments in terms of the customer and the NPS score. What we eventually decided, though, because we have such a small customer base, and wanted to underscore that advocacy marketing isn't necessarily just for huge organizations. We're an organization of only 30 individuals and have only 400 or so customers, and so we opened the door to all of our customers right off the bat, knowing full well that might require a little bit more management if you got sort of somebody in there who wasn't truly an advocate and steered conversations and responses in perhaps the wrong direction, that we need to stay on top of that. It just hasn't happened. We just haven't had any need to moderate and deny anybody or have any sort of control that way. So from our perspective, it worked out really well that way. The second place, and as you look at it, if you're coming at it from the standpoint of not necessarily being a company that has an existing customer base, you really need to go out there and doing an NPS score, doing a survey like that is great, but we really tried to couch it from the perspective, and as a matter of fact, we learned this from Influitive, from Truman there, who's absolutely great at a lot of the creativity that he does, is go out with value. So put an information piece out there that has value, but also has nested in it the information that you would like back. And by doing that, that really helped us grow our base there. The third area that we did, and especially as we transitioned over to opening the hub to prospects, to potential customers, as well as our existing customers, is that we created an internal program we call the Clerk On Ambassador Program. And it effectively is, a great T-shirt and some prizing behind encouraging the rest of the organization to do exactly what Bo was mentioning, is to get involved in adding advocates. And we've had some absolute standouts in our ambassador program, as can happen. And there are parts of the organization we'd like to see get more excited about it. And we're really just kind of rolling into Rev 2 of that fairly soon. But it created a sort of an internally branded concept of how everybody needs to be on board with the idea of adding advocates.
Okay, and then Paul, how did you recruit them? How did you get them into the community specifically? So in the Clerk On Ambassador program, it would be the individuals in the organization. So people in customer service that were talking to our clerks and solving their problems. At the end of it, say, hey, have you heard of Clerk On? It's a great community that's designed specifically for clerks to help clerks. It's nationwide. And feel free to call us at any time. We're not trying to tell you to go somewhere else, but this is a great place to learn about clerking and to get help as well. That's one example. Some of our most successful Clerk On ambassadors were actually our sales individuals. Being a little bit creative, they found a way to sort of mass invite a large number of prospects that they felt would be a good fit, and kind of blew the top off our contest there a little bit, which is always a good thing. And so each individual was coming at it from a perspective that was part of their job. Where did they have contact with a potential ambassador? Oh, I have a T-shirt. That keeps it a little bit more top of mind. Maybe I'll go ahead and ask that little extra question. So from that standpoint. Okay. All right. These are all great tips and tricks. For me, the way we get into it is we start with the Net Promoter Score, and then we pepper them with emails, and we show them what's in it for them as well. It's not just what's in it from the companies we represent in the brand, but we want to show them, look, this is a gamified community that you're going to be rewarded for doing what you already do, which is evangelize, whether it's the product or the company or what they, more importantly, what the company represents. So that is how we kind of lead them to joining the community. And once they're in the community, we want to make sure they stay engaged, which is kind of our next topic, which we're going to jump into right now, which is, and I'll start with Mark. I'd like to go around this virtual room and ask you, what is the top challenge or campaign that you've run with advocates that you feel really moved the needle out of the gate? So I'm going to start with Mark on that one.
Yeah, the best thing we've ever seen is really when we put advocates in teams in a competition. I think that drives both the need to socialize and the need to meet one another, which is a big driver of why people join advocate programs. Right? They want to have part of that sense of identity they get. They really love a product or a company. They want to increase that sense of identity. So joining a small team, I think it really furthers that. They want to meet other people. But then having it more engaging by having a contest is a lot of fun. And when that contest is not just around one particular advocacy activity type, like referrals, but if it actually is pretty varied, we find that the more varied the activity, the more engaged the advocates are. So if they get involved with something like this, which is speaking at a virtual event, but they also have a chance to do social media, to refer folks, to provide ideas and feedback on your marketing or product, that kind of varied activity drives a lot more engagement because it's just more fun and interesting. When you put those three together, in teams, competition, and varied activity, we really have unbelievable amounts of activity.
Okay. And Bo, what's your number one tip for getting advocates involved right out of the gate?
Ours is really around giving them access to us. So we see challenges where either they're getting access to like a beta product, a private beta, or to like our product team, right, for usability sessions and feedback. We see the advocates that do those things continue to come back and be really, really engaged in our community time and time again. So for us, that's an indicator that works, right? The second to that really is when we give our advocates the opportunity to be a reference for us. They love to talk to our prospects. They love to help us sell and close deals. So anytime we can bring them into that, obviously it's a win for us, but they really, really enjoy doing it and helps them with overall engagement in the hub.
How did you get them to the point where they become your free unpaid salespeople and they love doing it? I mean, you can't even get employees to do that?
Right. It's funny. We just ask them, would you like to help us? Would you like to speak with prospective customers? And time and again, we have more than we can handle. Usually we'll be looking for 2 or 3 advocates to help with with that. And we have a dozen, right, for any particular reference. It's to the point where I'm continually asking sales, will they bring us in sooner? Will they ask for advocates sooner? Because, it's effective and we have a whole line of people that want to do it.
So are you going to eliminate your sales force then, or are you just going to do it?
If I can get more customer referrals and not just reference calls, then we might have something there. Then we'll be opening more opportunities in marketing. So we'll just invite them over.
All right, Paul, what do you think?
So there's just to give a quick 3-parter. I know you asked for one tip, but the first part of it is really knowing your audience, and that's where I think luckily or not, we just kind of came out pretty well. We've actually got, I mentioned Lyle. Lyle is actually has a background in municipal clerk, so he was one of what our audience is targeted towards. And so the key there is that when we put out information and Lyle has mentioned to me that product polls that focus specifically on the terminology, that if you and I read it, we wouldn't even understand it, but it's in clerk terminology. They get it. They resonate with the words, and that are key elements to the challenges that they're facing daily. Those by far and away, when we communicate, something to an external list and they pull they pull in way more advocates than just about anything else. But like just about everything else in life, I can't say there is one thing. The one thing that's worked really well for us, and to give props where props are due, is working with the team at Influitive. These guys come up with the craziest, amazing marketing ideas, and because we're in a separate industry, they don't mind that we borrow aspects of them. I don't think they've done a major campaign that we haven't somehow morphed to fit elements of what we do. And I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out Alex Shapillo there, who was just named a member of the Marketing 30 Under 30. We hang out with Alex a lot. I hang out, with Influitive a lot, but Alex a lot as well. And they're continually coming up with interesting, amazing things. Not only is the platform great, but they're also just leaders in the concept of advocacy. Sorry, Mark, I don't mean to make you blush here, but it's a source of it's a great partnership.
Thank you.
So let me just continue on a little bit, because this is actually my favorite part of the discussion. And Mark, let me give you a little bit of background. Influitive is a platform, a gamified platform for advocates to join in a closed community, and they're asked to do things by the company running the platform. And those things are called challenges. There's other things you can do. So I'm always looking for very creative and innovative challenges to run. Now, I know it's different depending on who the audience is and what the objective of the platform is. But Mark, and I'm going to go around the virtual room again. What is the best, most innovative challenge that you've seen so far in all of the communities that you have out there?
Wow. What I've noticed, it's not really the silver bullet challenge that really drives success in a hub. It's really about the mix. There are a couple of innovative challenges. I'll tell you about them. But we find that the hubs that are successful, they are really not all about advocacy. In fact, advocacy is often less than a third. It's like around a third of the challenges that are in there. So a really engaging hub often has at least a third of the challenges that are just fun and interesting. One challenge I just saw yesterday was, who do you think is the next major contender to drop out of the U.S. presidential race? Really interesting. And tons of people went to opine on this. As a result, once they're there, there's lots of other things to do, right? There's advocacy to do, and there's education to do, and education is another big component. So, having challenges that show new aspects of your service or product that are not generally well known, or a sneak peek at some things that we're working on, are really, really compelling. And that's part of the reason why people want to join advocate programs. They want to feel like it's exclusive. They like having a special little VIP club to go to. So you really want to drive that as well. So I think you have some cleverness around the fun challenges. Another thing we saw that was really cool, actually, is having people wager their points, right? So, you can go in and invest, 200 points, and you have a chance to win 3 or 4 times as many back. So we've done that before around referral contests. And there's something psychological about, investing in something and you can go in and get it back. But again, I don't think it's those silver bullets that drive effective hubs. It's having that good balance of advocacy and different varied advocacy challenges, education, as well as fun and engaging things.
Okay, well, let me propose a silver bullet.
Okay.
All right. So one of the things we recommend that you do in an advocate community, right? These are all people typically that have tried or used your product, service, or believe in the cause, what have you, is to do some kind of a product review, like on Amazon or some of the other review sites. Seems like that's a natural thing to ask 100 people to go do. And because they love what you do, they should, if they're in your advocate community, chances are you'll get a pretty good review on that product, or if it's a service review on Yelp or what have you. Bo, do you disagree or disagree with that, or do you have a better silver bullet?
No, I absolutely agree with that. We've had great success doing reviews on third-party sites. I mean, I agree really with Mark's comment about it being a mix, right, of fun, some asks, right, that really benefit us, and then some stuff that's just fun. We did 2 different fun challenges. I mean, one was strictly, if you're going on a road trip, what snack do you bring, right? Well, our account managers love that question because they do calls, right? They go out and visit customers, and it's pretty cool to show up at a customer's office with Twizzlers, knowing that customer's favorite snack food, right? So, and that one had crazy engagement just because it was a fun challenge. Another one that we did similarly, I mean, I mentioned we're an audio and web conferencing provider. Every audio conference starts with hold music. So we asked our advocates, if you could pick the hold music, what would it be, right? And I mean, we got everything, right, to some hair bands, to Mozart, like folk music, everything across the board. I think we landed on something pretty traditional and standard for that upgrade, but I mean, just fun, right, to engage with them and see if they were doing it, what would it be? And again, it was another challenge that had great engagement, just a little bit of benefit to us, not much, but kept them really active in our hub, which is at the end of the day what's really important, so that when we do have an ask, that they do it.
Okay. How about you, Paul?
Well, so I love the idea of review sites. That's not something that we've tried, and I've actually been taking several notes for things that I've learned, during the broadcast here that I'm going to go away with, and that's one of them.
It's recorded, by the way, so it will be. It'll be up.
Okay, great. Yeah, we can we can double back on it, but the original, going back to the original question of what the most innovative challenge is. The one that jumps to mind, and again, we're kind of back in Alex's camp there with the guys in Influitive, was that Most Wanted campaign that they ran during the Dreamforce event that just went by a few weeks ago. I'm not sure if you heard about that one, but for those who haven't, there was a bunch of research done on who would be fantastic prospects for the concept of advocate marketing, and their pictures were photoshopped a little bit to have cowboy hats. The booth theme for Influence for Influitive at Dreamforce was very well done Western, and there were cash rewards for people actually connecting anybody on the Most Wanted list to bringing them to the booth. And there was some discussion about how things worked and how they connected. But as much as, logistically, that's pretty challenging. You've got to do a bunch of research. I'm sure you have a great research staff there. But people just loved the concept, how well it tied the booth in, and also the experience online. It was pretty awesome.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to move now to kind of our last topic. And I could just make a comment real quick. On that last section, that last topic that we had on tips and tricks and hacks to getting things work, we could have a 3-hour show just on that alone. I've seen some pretty incredible things being done within these communities. Okay, so most importantly to me in the companies I work for is, how do you value the advocate community, and more importantly, how do you measure that value and report it to the executive team, the CMO, whoever it is that ultimately is approving the budget for this? Let's start with Mark.
Sure. And not every company measures things the same way. So for some companies, what's really most important for them is to get a lot more customer stories, so that their sales reps are armed with exactly the right story that they need in order to convert that prospect. For other companies, it's all about referrals and generating referral leads. Others still, those reviews are really valuable. So typically what we do is we start with referrals, because referrals are an easier thing to value. A lot of companies know the value of a referral lead. They know what leads are worth, and referral leads are typically considerably more valuable than an ordinary web lead. So sort of peg the sort of point value at those. And then there's other things like, for example, a 5-star review. It's not as easy to measure what that's worth. But you can ask folks and say, well, as a percentage of a referral, what is the value of an online review? And some people say it's 5%, some people say it's 25%, but there's a range there. And same with all the other advocate activities. So once you have that, then you can use the point values that are generated as a proxy for value. And so that's often how we do it. So the referrals are really the hard dollar returns. And for, we really try with our new customers to get a return just on referrals alone in the first few months. All the other stuff is wonderful, 5-star reviews and stories and social buzz and whatever, a little harder to value it. But as a percentage of referrals, you can value it. And so a lot of our customers do have a pretty good sense of what the return on investment is on their program.
Yeah, and for us, you can do a lot of measuring within the Influitive community to see who's doing what and to kind of track that back to a lead or a sale. For B2B, we're typically looking for email addresses. Email for us is more important than any kind of social followings metric that we could see, with the exception maybe of YouTube. And we want to know how the community is impacting sales ultimately. So we're always looking to set up a string of measurements that we can trace back to a particular challenge or an individual within that community that helped grow the revenue for an organization.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's a more advanced technique, but we have a number of our customers that do that. Whenever they win a new customer, they invite them into the advocate program in a special new customer track, and then ask them, well, what was influential for you in making this purchase? Mm-hmm. Right? And often they'll say, oh, well, I read those reviews online, or I talked to an analyst, and this sort of thing. And often those are activities that were driven by the advocate program in the first place.
You got
it. That's advocacy 201, but it's for sure what you're talking about is a very valuable technique.
Okay, and Bo, how do you measure it, and how do you quantify it and show value?
Yeah, so we've kind of worked with our executive team to have some agreement, right, on what's important. And part of it was just an education thing from their standpoint. So we have a cost for creating an ebook, right? And if we have to go out and research and source all of the content for that ebook, it takes X percentage of time. We can equate that to a dollar amount. If we can source the content from our advocate hub, not only does it cut that time down, and there's all the costs and everything associated with that. So we kind of look at things like number of content pieces created, right? If we have blog posts coming out of the hub, all of that. So we look at content. We actually have put some metrics around usability, right? I mentioned like talking with our product team. For the product team to go out and try to source those customer interviews through other channels is really time consuming. So being able to cut that down and the feedback and everything associated with usability. So we look at content, usability. We definitely have some metrics around referrals and references and things that impact the sales cycle. And in all honesty, we kind of review those with our ELT quarterly, maybe twice a year. And it's more of okay, that's really good. We can see how it's impacting there. What about these other things? You mentioned third-party reviews. We actually track the leads coming in through those sites because we've had really a lot of success on a couple of those platforms. We're paying for formal programs now with them, but really all of that success is attributed to, the foundation our advocate program put in place.
Excellent. And Paul?
Yeah, we're a very metrics-oriented organization, and although with the original focus for our ClerkOn hub being more thought leadership, that's a little, it's kind of a little softer on that side. So what we've done is we've just adjusted the metrics quarter on quarter based on the focus of what we were looking to do, for with Influitive platform at that time. So to begin with, it was just getting anybody in there, right? And then it was a level of engagement, and then it's a combination of both. And it is a little tricky the first time you go through because you have no idea what the numbers should be. So you do weigh a little bit more on the activity side. So how many challenges we can get out there? What's our appropriate challenge mix? And then as we got further along, it started to be market saturation. So we very much tout our hub as a coast to coast hub. So we now have a bounty on 3 states that we're not in, and so it changed a little bit over time. But but that's all part of our metric-based management program that we run in Icompass, and the fun of it all is layered underneath all of that is actually referrals, which is technically how the hub pays for itself. And we're really just getting to the point now where we have some really, more hard-driven referral targets. And this gets back to, one point, as I sort of made my notes thinking about today's event that I wanted to definitely touch on, was it's super, super important to build value before you go to the well. And that can be as easy as a couple of emails or a couple of good challenges, but you want to make sure that you know your audience and you get the value out ahead of the concept of what can you do for me. It's the old adage of people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And, we've heard it before, but it applies here.
Okay. One last question. We got about 6 more minutes, so let's try and keep it short. These things don't roll out exactly as planned. So I'm always looking to keep it real. So in your own words, what are the biggest challenges you've had to setting up the community or maintaining it or driving engagement within it? The biggest challenge, Mark.
Okay, well, in our case, we don't have so much of a challenge internally. It's what we do for a living. But I think what we've seen with when we do have customers who struggle, sometimes there's not really an effective mandate from the C-suite, in terms of what is the purpose of the program, what are the metrics that we really want to drive. So without that mandate, sometimes the program can go sideways. So we do in our sales process, we often meet with the top marketing officer and sometimes other folks and just make sure we have a meeting of the minds there and we have a kickoff call or meeting, that they're present. I think the other one is with the advocate marketer. As what Bo mentioned, this is kind of a new discipline, right, in companies. And sometimes companies, they do have customer marketers, but this is like customer marketing 2.0. This is a whole new level of doing customer marketing. It's not just setting up the occasional reference call and calling up some people and trying to get their stories. This is a fully advocate-facing, gamified program. It requires real creativity in writing these challenges. It requires a lot of finesse with how you do your rewards and your points and this sort of thing. And so, having an advocate marketer that really understands where this plays a role in their future, in their career, all that sort of thing, so that they're really motivated is another thing that we know is important. And so we have a sort of two-pronged effort when we work with companies is both with the top marketing folks, but then also with customer marketers that we're taking care of both of them. That's a very CEO-ish kind of answer, but love to hear from the others in terms of their experience working in hubs.
Yeah, and I'll just offer mine real quick. And J.S. Gilbert, who's on the who's in the audience here, brought it up. Is churn. Right. You could keep these advocates going for a while if you have the right challenges, and maybe forever if they've got that much passion around it. But eventually, there's going to be some that drop out. Right. And so it's having a constant recruitment program in order to replace them is something I think is one of the challenges that people need to be cognizant of. It's not like it's that difficult, especially if it's an engaged community already. People have personal issues or they got to do other things. So it's a naturally occurring effect. But being prepared for that, I think, is a challenge that everyone that's watching this should be aware of. And so, Bo, what's the number one challenge that you have?
Yeah, I'd echo that. Like, there are ebbs and flows in our advocate behavior, so it's maintaining that. I think yes, that will continue for us. But I think what I see as our upcoming bigger challenge, I mentioned expanding our hub pretty significantly. And so how do we take this to a bigger scale, but make sure it doesn't lose the engagement, the personalization? It's easy now for me and a colleague to make sure that customers still have that interaction with a real person behind the hub, right? Paul mentioned Truman, who runs Influitive's VIP hub. He does a great job of making sure their hub feels like the company, right? And it has that personal touch. So that's my challenge now, is how do we really get big and not lose that?
Okay. And Paul?
So in the beginning, the hardest challenge was really around the idea of figuring out exactly what it was. Advocate marketing is still pretty new, and the how you price it out, and like what headcount do we need to run it, and is it going to pay for itself? There were a lot of questions there, and candidly, I'm a little bit of an analytical guy, and I didn't really have all the answers. And I trusted the early relationship with Influitive, and we just kind of jumped in. And the construction of the cost of the platform was made very digestible, and allowed us to just continue driving through. So I guess the thought there is there's going to be a lot of questions before you try this, because it's new. Anything that's new, there's going to be some things you don't know. It really worked well for us though, just jumping in. These days it's matching our growth, our growth projections. We've expanded outside of our customer base. I'd like to get it to the point we have 100% of our customers on it. Awesome. And again, we have great customers. They're very, very supportive. And so I don't think that's a totally insane goal. But I also want to get to the point where we have a very large percentage of all of the clerks in the industry on it. And, we're up to, I think we're up to about 4 or 5% at this point. I'd like to see that get, north of 20 or 30, or, I can see Lyle probably in the background here freaking out, but maybe 50. Now that might be a long time goal there, but if we build the value, if we make it truly the online gathering place for clerks, and the gamification that's built into it, and the ability to share, and the ability for clerks to help clerks, I don't think it's totally insane.
Okay. Well, on that note, I do want to thank our panelists and have a couple of reminders here. We're going to be talking about personal branding next week, so please subscribe. And also, I'm going to put into the notes here on the right-hand side, there's a link to download an Influitive ebook on building community. It's actually the playbook. So if you want to take an even deeper dive than this hour-long discussion we just had, please download that ebook. Again, I want to thank the panelists. I think that this was a very effective how to look at building an advocate community, how you drive engagement, so on and so forth. And I look forward to speaking with all of you again.
Great.
Thank you very much.
That was fun.